this for, what, 6 weeks now? And for me, that is incredible. I talk about my sermon for at least 6 hours. And so to have somebody who has that inspiration and that incredible energy to put together what the talk that she is going to be doing. I am so delighted to have her. And for those of you who don't recognize the name Chris Brown, you'll recognize her because she's a member of our choir. Please welcome Chris Brown. Sure.
I'm going to move the mic.
Okay, good. Well, it still doesn't. Do you need anything to read from?
No, I'm good.
There's the beads.
Beads traveling.
Props.
You're going to drink your props?
Woohoo! I used to do that. Because then you get more.
Okay. Oh, this looks pretty good. Is this okay if I stand up here?
Of course.
Yes. I do it on other Sundays. Okay.
Choir, yeah.
So, for 6 weeks, I've had no voice, which is really pretty interesting. And so I'm going to see how we do. Today will be my taking everything I have and putting it out there, but I won't be as ebullient as I may have been in the past. I want to start with something. I do need some help. Yes. And before anybody just quickly says yes, as I was leaving the house today, a lot of emotions and ideas and projects and priorities caught my attention and wanted to come with me. They wanted to come with me and they wanted to stand up here and they wanted to participate in this. And I made a deal with them. I said, I will put you in a backpack and there's a really soft blanket in there and a stuffed animal and some puzzles. And so would anybody, and my transcripts, so we can't lose this or leave it. But is there anybody who could just like babysit this for Jan? That'd be great.
The birthday girl, huh?
Birthday girl.
Thank you. That's perfect.
So you're handing over your baggage.
I'm putting it to the side for the moment. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. And if you notice, I asked for help. I want to start with that. So diving into our topic here. Before I dive in, what I want to do today, I have a 3-hour talk prepared, but I know I can't keep it out. But what I wanted to do is tell you that I have a bunch of ideas that I put together, and in my world, all of these ideas are connected and closely connected, and that may not feel like that for you. And so, on the one hand, I want to talk about what I'm going to talk about, but also I'm going to talk about how I do that. How is it that I interact with my own thoughts and take widely disparate situations and hold them. I sort of promised that to a couple of people that that I would talk about my process as well as my thoughts.
And in your programs, there is a little outline of what she's doing. So,
right. So
we're
probably not going to do everything, but it would be helpful if you like to follow or know where you're going, if you like maps. This is what yesterday I thought I would be talking about, so we'll see how much of it is true. There may be a reference for you by number. Okay, so I want to start by quoting the Bible, which is not something I do a lot. I'm not averse to it, but I don't do it a lot. But one of my favorite lines is, partly because I'm a grammarian, I look to the hills, whence cometh my help. And the fun part about that is that nobody knows if that's a statement or a question. So I'll say it again. I look to the hills, whence cometh my help. So I want to talk about help. And I would point out that one of the things that I just did is I asked for help. I mean, I knew what I needed, and I knew there would be plenty of people. This is part of my circle of resources, and I knew somebody would help me out, but I had to ask for it. And a lot of times what happens is that we forget to ask. Sometimes because we don't know who to ask or where that help is going to come from. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well today. That line comes from Psalm 121, and I know it has all the hallmarks of biblical passages, whichever hallmarks you think are important or possibly unpleasant, but I do want to read it because I think it's a good foundation for what we're going to talk about today. I lift up mine eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. And when we can take that idea, this is what I do with it, I take that idea and I raise it up above any vocabulary, above any culture, above any piece that might get in my way, and I raise it up to the place where in its essence it is absolutely stellar. I wasn't going to say that, it's cool. Stellar. So we're going to talk a little bit about help. What I want to do first is I want to have us sing a song, and with this voice I ain't singing. I got some help in there too. So if April and Corky would help me out, you may know the song, you may know the words, and the words are in your. Yeah. And so, hold up. The words are item number 2, song. May the sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill this place. So, just sit and feel that Spirit. And fill this place.
May the sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill this place. May the sweet, Yeah.
No. Okay, got it.
Okay.
May the sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill this place. May the sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill this place. May we wrap it all around this feeling that we found, and may the sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill this place. 2 more times. May the sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill this place.
Perhaps at first thought, the place was this beautiful sanctuary here where all of us are gathered. But there are other places as well.
May we wrap it all around this feeling that we
So
found.
this time bring it into
May
your
the
heart.
sweet, sweet
Let your heart be that
Holy
place.
Spirit fill this place. May the sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill
And now as
this
we're filled in our hearts
place.
with this sweet, sweet
May
Holy
the
Spirit,
sweet, sweet Holy Spirit fill this place.
can we radiate out from our
May
hearts
we wrap
radiate
it
out
all around
into the city, into
this
the country,
feeling that
into
we
the
found.
into the
And may the
universe,
sweet,
and
sweet
as
Holy
the greatest
Spirit
beyond can
fill
radiate all the way
this
out.
place.
Thank you very much. So one of the things that I do is I see the world, or I experience the world in fractals and exponentiality. And this song was a perfect example of starting with one thing and moving into a different dimension and then moving that into yet a different dimension. And to encompass, to fill my heart first, and then to take that heart and beam it out, to radiate out as far as possible. So, one of the things I want to talk about, and everything's going to be so brief today, but one of the things I want to talk about is we can do more than we think we can. So we all have events in our lives where things happen that are miracles, and I'll remind you just a couple of them. Rosa Parks sitting on a bus, and everything that came from that was a miracle. You probably remember the Captain Sullivan who landed the airplane in the frozen Hudson River, and I was reading about it, and only one person required hospitalization overnight out of 155 passengers and crew. It was amazing and absolutely a miracle. And one of my favorite miracles, does anybody remember Shannon Faulkner? So in 1995, Shannon Faulkner became the first female cadet to enter the Citadel. And she was just treated impossibly. Officially, she only lasted 5 days at the Citadel. It turns out that she had spent months preparing for it and getting haste and everything, but her official time was only 5 days. And what seemed like a terrible disappointment at one point. But did you know that now, 20 years later, that there are 300 female cadets just this year? They actually comprise 9.9% of that population. So there are things that change. We can witness things and think of them one way, and all of a sudden something happens and they become the seed of something greater. So, using Shannon Faulkner as an example, when we pursue our own dreams, it allows other people to pursue their dreams. And some of the things that I want to talk about today, to see how far we get through, is how we can strengthen our internal muscles. How do we strengthen our muscles of faith, of courage, of love, muscles of forgiveness, our muscles of healing? How do we strengthen all of that? So, I want to, so recently I was talking with a friend who was having some legal situation. And as we were chatting, I could see that my friend was afraid of what was about to happen and could use some grounding. So I helped her ground, and I reminded her that if she didn't show up for herself, no matter how good her attorney was, the attorney couldn't execute his part. We can't, if we don't do our part, the people around us can't do theirs. The people that we ask to do things, hire to do things, the people who have positions of responsibility, if we're not showing up for our own part, then that puts them in a position where they're not able to do the thing that you might need or want them to do. And so we went through a grounding exercise, and the bottom line is that after this exercise, I talked to her a week or two later, and it turns out that she had held her grounding, and in holding her ground, she had been strongly held, and that everything that needed to happen had happened and even more. And that was a very exciting thing. So what I want to do is I want to actually walk you through what I do. Pretty much what I did with her, although I'm going to do a little bit more than that. How to gird up our loins. I love that term. I've always loved it. And in fact, if you turn your paper, there's actually an image as a picture. You can go online. This is the manliness site. And if you go and look for how to gird up your loins, you find this fabulous drawing. And it's, if you notice the transition from the guy standing in his formal dress to wielding this scimitar is pretty awesome. Okay, so if everybody who would like to participate, if you want to stand up.
Do I have to gird my loins?
Well, I'm going to reference girding the loin. No loins shall be girded in this exercise.
Okay.
But what I want to do is I want to put some ground in the room and ask all of you to participate in doing that. And if this helps you in your practice, that's terrific. So let's go ahead, stand up if you want, you don't have to.
Okay.
Okay, so these are called the basics. So the first thing we're gonna do is ground. And some people go, yeah, ground, I know that. So what I wanna suggest is that when we ground, and Dr. Arlene was very helpful in getting us started with that earlier this morning. Okay, so grounding, we're gonna go down, make your feet like a tree. And what I find is people don't necessarily go as deeply as they would benefit from. So let's go a little bit deeper. We're going to go through the mantle of the earth, go down into where all those dinosaurs are. We're going to go down into darker and thicker stuff, and go down into the magma. Now sometimes when you get to the core of the earth, I'm going to breathe. Breathing is really helpful when you ground. So let's go to the core. And what you can do, if you like, is you can wrap a tendril around a really big rock in the core of the earth, if that's helpful to you. Some people do this all the time, but not everybody has the same facility going up or going down. And for some people, in fact for my friend, what helped was to actually continue through the core of the earth and actually come out the other side and put a I forget what you call it, one of those grappling hooks on the end. So that's ground. And we have so much more access to our resources when we ground. Okay. But it doesn't have to stay in the low base baritone. You can come back up. So let's come on back up. And after ground, what we're going to do is we're going to go into core. So core is like the backbone. If you want, you can put a 4-inch PVC pipe, whatever image works for you, right in the center, straight up and down, and that's core. And this is where we need to come home to. The problem is a lot of people, and I had to learn this the hard way, a lot of people dodge their core. One of my very biggest lessons is not to dodge my core. And I dodged it because it wasn't safe, and that's a whole nother story. But for me to be safe, I had to inhabit my core. So we're just going to be in the core. And then there's, I have a reference here about gird your loins, lash yourself to the mizzen mast. That's what I had to do. I had a boat image, and I would lash myself to the mizzen mast, not to move off that core. Some people, it really helps to run the golden cord. That's more or less of that actress, I can't remember her name. The golden cord, she does that. Shirley, thank you, Shirley MacLaine. Yeah, her and the golden cord, that's all core. Okay, and now that we're in our core, what we need to do is understand what is mine and what is not mine. What is me and not me. So if you just take a moment, this is me. And you pat your belly if that feels good, or pat your body, this is me. And then, this is not me. And so often we don't experience the difference. We allow things to come in, we allow people and energy to come in through our space, when we really need to shield ourselves, not in a hostile manner, but simply, no, this is my space, this is mine. So me, not me, is a really good practice. What I do after that is I run my chakras, and that means I set them spinning, and there's a lot of people who can talk to you about how that works. You don't have to spin them, whatever works for you, but if you start at 1, 2, we're gonna go through these real briefly, 3, and that's all in your belly area. Coming up, your heart chakra, 4, 5 is in your throat, 6, your third eye, 7 above your head. In my system, I go to 8, which is below my feet. A little bit of a calisthenic there. And then 9 is above 7. And then what I do is I launch off of 9, I launch up to my higher self, and then up to my guiding star.
Nice.
And then, and this is the magic of the system I'm in, from my guiding star I come back down through my template of perfection. Template of perfection is everything that is the best about me and my true essence. Come through my template of perfection, and when I do that, then I drop into my, if I'm a woman, I drop into my feminine. If I'm a man, I drop into my masculine. And that is basics. So if you feel, if that works for you, it's a good way to set the tone for then moving up, down, in, out, around, wherever you want to go out. You've got home, you know where home is, you remember who you are. I feel like it's drawing a celestial map and knowing where I am on that map, so I don't get lost. Okay. Okay, so I have a short story about a candle. Oh, and I have a candle, but I don't have it here. I'm gonna image a, you know, little tin cup tea light. Okay. So I was with somebody the other night, and we'd been talking for a couple of hours, and she picks up the light and she goes, "This tea light, I'm so I don't want to blow it out. It has served us so well, and here it is, and it's like there's almost no juju left." Thank you. There's almost no fuel, no wax left in this, and it has served us so. And she was quite wistful about this. And I had never done this little exercise with her, but I went, oh, okay, this is a good teaching moment. And I go, okay, so this little almost empty cup, that's true, that's the light. But that's not the light. This is the light. And she looks at me kind of like, huh? I go, well, this is just a local representation of all that is. And we do not dishonor light by blowing out this candle and not setting the curtains on fire. There's things that we need to do here on third plane, Earth. On third plane, we need to take care of things like this, but we do not dishonor the light just because we blow this representation of it out. And this is kind of what I mean by fractal, if that makes any sense to you. There's this, but then this is exponentially that. Right? So this is why I had you guys ground, okay? Feel free to fly, just remember to come home. Okay, that's my little light story. Okay, so after I had this story, and I have a couple other stories which we may or may not get to, I realized that there was a pattern that was happening. And I wanted to get into some perhaps a little bit darker stuff. My reference is the shooting in Charleston. That's why I say, like, to me this all fits together. I just have to go up where it fits together. And I want to point out, if you have a chance, if you read Time, and if you go online to time.com, you can find this amazing article, really wonderful article about Charleston and the shooting. And obviously the shooting was not what was wonderful, but what was wonderful was how some of the 9, or the 5 survivors dealt with it and their families. So I really, really recommend this article, and I would just read it to you top to bottom if you had 3 hours. I recommend that you look at it. It is online. So,
what's the name of the article?
Mercy, forgiveness. It's actually Charleston shooting cover story. That's another way to do it. Sorry about that. I think it's in your handout. I thought it was in the handout. Perhaps not. Okay. So one of the ironies, I'm kind of making an assumption you all kind of know the story, and I'll hit a few points here. So there's a Bible study in the basement, and this with African American churchgoers attending, young and old. This white kid comes in. He spends an hour in the Bible study meeting. And at the end of the Bible study meeting, he stands up and he basically unloads 5 clips of ammunition and kills everybody. Kills 5 survived. 1 was left to tell the story, and 2 were so covered with blood and guts he didn't realize they weren't dead. And then there were 2 more that were in a different room right there. So those are 5 survivors. So a couple things about Mother Emanuel Church is that it was not the original Emanuel Church. There had been an Emanuel Church built in the 1700s. And in the 1800s, in 1822, there was a plot by some of the slaves that were attending that church or were involved with that church. There was a plot by the slaves to do some rebellious activities and overturn some things, and they were found out, and as a result, the original Emanuel Church was burnt. And not only was it burnt down, but other black churches were forbidden to be built. So you know, we may have one idea about what it means to have that church, but then there's this other stuff going on with this church. The part I want to talk about is that within 36 hours of the shooting, there was a hearing to find out what to do with this kid and what he had done. And one of the relatives came forward and began to talk about forgiveness.
One of the relatives of the shooter? Or one of the
One of the relatives of the parishioners, the victims, yeah, the parishioners who had died. And kind of unexpectedly, she started talking about forgiveness. And after her unexpected comments, other people unexpectedly began speaking about forgiveness. So, what I got from this part about forgiveness, she said to him, "I forgive you. You took something very precious away from me. I will never get to talk to her ever again. But I forgive you, and I have mercy on your soul. You hurt me. You hurt a lot of people. If God forgives you, I forgive you." So she went kind of from here to there and made that connection. And that's what set her at peace. Again, unexpectedly, she doesn't know how it actually happened, but it is the case. Another person talked about forgiveness to this reporter, and he said, "Forgiveness is like a Band-Aid that holds together the edges of an open wound long enough for the wound to heal."
Can you read that again?
And I've got written here twice because, yeah. Forgiveness is like a Band-Aid that holds together the edges of an open wound long enough for that wound to heal. And my image of that is here and here. Because this is that forgiveness piece, and this is that energy coming through, and whatever time it takes, that these are held in concert. He cannot heal what happened to his wife, nor whatever's wrong with the man who killed her. This grieving man knows that he must attend to the wound inside himself. And there was somebody else who said something I really liked, reminds me of CCL. He said of his wife, "She is radiant, just beyond my helpless reach, and the door is closing." And I went, wow, we teach something different. And I reflected that here at CCL, we teach that it's possible to lift the veil. The door need not be completely shut. And if that door doesn't remain shut, and I'm sort of making an assessment, y'all everyone understanding what I'm talking about. If we don't shut the door on that death, then who will we be as we move forward? And what I realized is that when we hold that door open and we choose to move forward, how we choose to move forward can actually change the past. this is where I live. If you guys, I have friends who say, I can't follow you, and I'm going, oh, it's too bad, because it's so cool. Okay, so what does it mean to change the past? Well, in this situation, 4 days after the shooting, more than 10,000 people came together to show their support for the hurt, right? The grief and everything. From both sides of the miles-long Ravenel Bridge into Charleston, blacks and whites together filled the span in a show of unity and love for the broader, diverse community. Now, since I believe that space and time is fluid, to me, words just escape me. So that helps salve some of the other injuries in the past. And not only that, but less than 1 month later, on July 10th, after impassioned deliberation within the legislature and outside the legislature, the most contentious public symbol of South Carolina's Civil War past, the Confederate battle flag, was removed from the state capitol grounds. People came from states and states away, and it was moved to a military museum, which was a word that people used a lot. It belongs in a museum. And so this violent act by one misguided young man had taken the lives of 9 vibrant and special individuals, but as a result, it also required those closest to the tragedy to look deeply into their hearts for a way to live with their loss, and in a number of cases to publicly affirm their spiritual values in spite of their deep, deep grief. When these intimate decisions by a small set of family members were made public, the topic of forgiveness in the face of tragedy and madness sprung up in the national conversation. In fact, newspapers, and I checked this out, I went out online and looked at the newspapers. Newspapers from Britain, France, Germany, and Japan all carried news of the shooting and of the forgiveness in their daily reports. We witnessed massive exhortations of the truth, equality, of love across a state, across a nation, and beyond. One small pebble makes a ripple that can be felt across all distance to the depths of our innermost souls and to the far reaches of space and time. This, then, is how we are Stardust. So what I would like you to do, Stardust, what I'd like you to do is stand up. We have another song. And in your little packet, now we need to know who doesn't have a packet. There's a special item in your little packet.
The stars.
It's sticky stars. Everybody needs to have a set of sticky stars. And if you don't have a packet, they're in the back.
Oh, yeah, I did.
So I need April and Corky to come up here again.
You got it.
I think we need one right here.
There's somebody in the back, I think.
You put them on your hand. Do you remember
La 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 la.
Okay, so April and Corky, you know this song, yeah? Oh, we'll find out. So Corky is gonna help us. It's number 12 in your handout, line 12.
I got it. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you.
So now if you go ahead and get up and we'll sing this song, continue
Then
singing.
there's a,
Well, we're just gonna sing. I think
We're
the
just gonna sing
clock
this.
is telling us we're gonna sing and
Okay.
stick.
okay.
So we're sticking. Who's?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mill, and you have, I don't know, 5 stars, and we're just gonna mill and sing,
All I ask of you is
and
forever to remember me.
offer
loving you.
to someone You are Stardust. With this sticky
I
star.
ask of you is forever
And share a moment of heart.
as loving you.
Thank you, you are too.
Is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you.
Wow, this is the mingle.
Okay, I guess everybody's got their 5 stars out there.
5 wasn't enough.
We can do this longer.
Well, actually, we can.
Alrighty.
So,
Love, love, more love.
okay.
Alrighty.
That's about it, isn't it?
So I'm glad y'all were so excited and participatory. It's fabulous. Thank you so much. I have material for another 2 hours. I'm not going to do it now, but I'll get on the schedule for May. How's that?
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
morning.
Yay!
Woo!